All right, what's up, guys? So, what I've decided to do this week with the vlogs is sort of mash the lifestyle and informative content together. So, what I'll do in this vlog is I'll voice over me making my breakfast with some informative stuff, mostly centered around a discussion about micronutrients. And just to be clear up front, for any of you guys who aren't totally up on the terminology here, when we talk about micronutrients, we're basically talking about vitamins and minerals, so things like vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, and all that stuff. And when we talk about macronutrients, we're talking about protein, carbs, and fats, the things that make up the calories in the food we eat. So basically, what you're seeing here is the same breakfast that I have every morning, and it's just 50 grams of spinach, 50 grams of zucchini, some mushrooms, onions, and ham, all just fried up in the pan and then scrambled with some egg whites. And basically what this does is it allows me to get 2 servings of veggies out of the way right away at the start of my day, and also 1 fruit serving, since I'll also have 100 grams of blackberries or strawberries along with my eggs and oats. And so one of the things that I actually get asked quite a lot is whether or not micros will affect the way that we look. There's really no question, and we sort of all agree that if we want to be as healthy as we can be and live as long as we can and avoid preventable diseases and so on, that it's important to eat wholesome, healthy, vitamin-rich foods. And I don't really know of anyone who would disagree with that. So it's extremely important for health reasons. And I do actually think that the sort of online explosion of if it fits your macros and all of the distortions of the idea that have come along with that has sort of undermined this fact. But the question that I get asked a lot is not whether or not it affects our health, but whether or not it actually affects the way we look. And I've thought about this for a while, and the answer actually isn't quite as simple as you might think. So what I've done is I've drawn up the 3 basic things that affect the way we look. And those are our genetic structure, our level of muscularity, and our level of leanness. And it really just comes down to those 3 things. So I'm going to take them one at a time and then examine the role that micronutrients might play for each. So in terms of our genetic structure, things like where our muscles insert, the roundness of the muscle, and just the general shape and structure of our body is something that we're just given from birth. It's in our genetic code, and this isn't something that can be manipulated through diet. So there's really no role that micronutrients can play here. We basically have what we're given, more or less. So now the second thing that influences the way we look is our level of muscular development. Now, building muscle is actually a pretty straightforward process. We build muscle by training with weights in the gym and consuming enough protein. And it's really as simple as that. So the question is, how might micronutrients play into this? How might they play into the muscle building process? Well, acutely, on a short-term basis, they do absolutely nothing. Since vitamins and minerals have no caloric value, they actually don't provide any immediately usable energy. So when you see these pre-workout supplements that are basically just cocktails of vitamins and minerals, they're not actually giving you any energy for your workout. Now, with that said, if you are negligent about your micronutrition goals over a long enough period of time, you definitely can become deficient in certain micronutrients, which can then certainly negatively impact on your training performance, especially if you become lethargic or if you just chronically have low energy levels. So over enough time and enough workouts, if you're chronically deficient in micronutrients, then this could certainly lead to enough training detriments that you actually don't build as much muscle, and therefore you could look worse as a result. But notice that the impact here specifically from micronutrients is completely negligible acutely And it would have to happen over a pretty long period of time in order for this sort of training effect to become significant. And so the final thing that I'm going to look at that impacts the way we look is our level of leanness. So even if you have great muscle bellies and you're genetically blessed with a good shape and your training is perfect, if you have a layer of fat that's covering everything up, then you're not going to look too great from a bodybuilding perspective. So the question is, what is the role of micronutrients here? And so basically, while it is true that minerals like calcium and magnesium play extremely important roles as cofactors in regulating the metabolic processes that do drive fat loss, and vitamins play important roles as enzymes and catalysts, we don't really need to zoom in that close in order to understand what it is that actually drives fat loss. And it really is as simple as just putting yourself in a caloric deficit. So if you're expending more calories than you're consuming, then your body is going to turn to its own fat stores for energy. And this is completely independent of how nutritious or vitamin-rich your foods are. So just to conclude this commentary for you guys, the question is, can you get shredded and stay muscular without eating healthy? And the answer is most definitely, no question at all. Do micros play an important role in determining how we look? Not really. They don't play an important role. Training and our macros are what basically drives that look. But can they play a role if ignored over a long enough period of time? Absolutely. And this is mostly going to come as a result of micronutrient deficiencies leading to performance detriments in the gym. So the message here isn't that we should just go and eat whatever we want because all we care about is how we look. I think that we really should care about micros. They impact how we feel, how healthy we are, how long we live. And I think that if we just disregard them, they can affect our performance in the gym, which is clearly important to us. So all of these things should be extremely important to us as bodybuilders and fitness enthusiasts. And I really think that setting yourself up with micronutrient goals, things like vegetable intake, fruit intake, and dairy goals should be very high on your priority list, especially when you're prepping for a show, since your overall food intake is going to be lower. All right, guys, so that concludes this voiceover. Like I said, if you enjoyed this informative content, please just let me know. And it is a format that I will continue in the future if you guys like it, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the vlog. So, with breakfast, I get 2 veggie servings out of the way. So 1 serving of spinach, 1 serving of zucchini, and then I get 1 serving of fruit out of the way. So I try to hit 2 to 3 of each throughout the course of the day. So I've already hit my veggie requirement, but usually I'll have 1 more. And then with fruits, usually before training, I'll have an apple. And then also with breakfast, I always have 2 fish oils to make sure I take care of my EPA DHA requirements, since I don't eat a whole lot of fatty fish. So those are my macros for my breakfast. So macros number 2, got strawberries and the oranges. And
you know what? I'm
here with my man Pat, get my hair cut. See where we're at. Looks good so far, man.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Pretty good. So this is the new haircut. That's Robin. Alright guys, so I just finished up with my 3DMJ pull workout. Robin and I are on our way to get some sushi. And so basically what I did today was I kicked it off with some pendlay rows. So the pendlay row is basically a variation on the plain old barbell row, where you just really close up your back angle so your torso is pretty much parallel with the ground. And what you want to focus on with this movement is a explosive concentric, and then today I worked on a bit more of a controlled eccentric, but they're not always done this way. So I did 3 sets of, I think it was 8 reps with that, and then I moved on to weighted chins. after that, I moved on to V-grip lat pull downs. So the difference between a V-grip or the close grip attachment and just you doing a regular wide grip lat pull down is that you're actually training your lats through shoulder extension as opposed to shoulder adduction. So it's a slightly different way of going about training the back. And so I think it was 3 sets of 8 to 12 with those. And then I moved on to rope face pulls, which I didn't actually film. But the way that I did the face pulls is with the rope attachment set up really high, and then I would pull the rope towards my chin and actually retract my scapula. And that turns it into a trap exercise, which is basically what I'm trying to build up. Whereas if you want to really target your rear delts, what you would instead do is keep your scapula protracted, so you don't actually squeeze your shoulder blades together, keep them protracted and pull using your rear delts. Or you could just do an exercise like reverse pec deck or what I call cable transverse abductions. So you just basically pull the cable across your body like this for a rear delt exercise. But like I said, I was using the rope face pulls today as a trap exercise, so that was how I did them. And then I finished off the workout with dumbbell hammer curls, and that's a really good exercise for not only targeting the biceps, the brachialis, but also that little chunk of meat on the top of your forearm that Phil Heath has. Maybe I'll put a pic of Phil Heath and his crazy brachioradialis is what it's called. So the brachioradialis actually crosses the elbow joint. So when you do hammer curls with the neutral grip, you're actually training the brachioradialis to a large degree. And then when you actually perform bicep curls supinated, you kind of take the brachioradialis out of the movement and shift the emphasis to the biceps. So I actually think I have really good brachioradialis development, I think in part because I've always incorporated hammer curls into my training. So I finished off with that, and now we're gonna go eat some sushi. So that's where we are now. Nothing too crazy, because it is a reefy day, but I've got to keep my fats really low. So I'll probably just go with like teppanyaki and California rolls.